Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Welcome at the government office. I'd like to begin by appreciating the very constructive nature of our meeting, during which we were able to exchange and share many issues indeed. In 1977, a movie was shot with the name of Racha, My Love. And thanks to this movie, Slovakia and Georgia had become very familiar to one another. And I would be very happy if us, the politicians, will also be able to get to know each other better and to utilize fully the large potential there exists between our countries. There is nothing burdening our relations, and a proof to that has been our meeting today. We have, together with the Georgian Prime Minister, made jointly a commitment to be exercising pressure on all our cabinet ministers, for them to do all they can to intensify our trade and business relations. Because on both sides, in Georgia and in Slovakia, there are capable and smart business people who can make a major contribution to intensifying and improving our relations. With the Georgian Prime Minister, we have focused in our discussions on very serious issues of European integration, where I did not waver any second, and I have declared openly full support of the Slovakia to Georgia's ambitions for visa-free relations towards the EU. The EU and Georgian relations are perceived in general as very good. They have been evolving in positive directions, therefore they deserve the support we can give them. And I'd like to wish to Georgia all the best on its road towards EU membership, because our country is one of the best examples of a major benefit of EU membership for small countries. And I also consider visa-free and visa liberalization as being fair towards Georgia, because I see no reason whatsoever to be placing obstacles before people who are either business people or from culture or sports, for them to undergo a difficult and strenuous Schengen visa application procedure. And I'm saying this openly in light of the recent influx of hundreds of thousands of migrants who are flooding Europe now without any identification or visa. With all due respect, I have extended to Prime Minister of Georgia the experience of Slovakia to be shared with the Georgian government, specifically with regard to pre-accession procedure to the EU. And it was interesting to follow the many similarities the development in two of our countries share. Slovakia will also be supportive of approval of an action plan for Georgia for NATO membership, fully respecting the sovereign right of every country, whether or not they wish to have the ambition of joining the North Atlantic Alliance. Prime Minister, I do firmly believe that two specific events will make a major contribution in improving our relations. Those events were opening the embassy of Slovakia in Tbilisi in 2014 and a new air connection, air flight in 2016 between Bratislava and Tbilisi. And you can rely on the fact that you will always find a friend in Slovakia. So once again, welcome.
Thanks so much. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much again for your very warm hospitality. This is my first visit to Slovakia, to your beautiful country, and I have to be very honest, I'm really impressed by the beauty of your country, of your beautiful capital. This is my first visit, as I mentioned. And I have to tell you that I heard from Prime Minister that even before I was born, Prime Minister was in Georgia in 1979. I was so happy to hear that Prime Minister was in Sukhumi in 1979. We Georgian people have very strong ties with your country. We share the same history, same values, same traditions. We have strong roots. And I'm here to make this relationship and friendship even stronger. And it is great that we have these natural feelings, natural good relationship. And you just mentioned the film Racha with Love. This is one thing that we can mention. And we can develop many things. We can cooperate in business, we can intensify trade economic relationship, humanitarian relationship, and cultural things. So I think there's a huge potential. So we can do many projects together. I want to express my sincere gratitude for Prime Minister's remarks regarding the support for Georgia's European and Euro-Atlantic integration. We Georgians truly believe in the future, in the European future of our country. The European choice is the choice of my people, and we are strongly committed to this path. Last year we signed the historic document, the association agreement with the European Union, and so we embarked on a very demanding path. It's a heavy process, we understand it, but we're fully motivated to fulfill all the liabilities. You just mentioned the visa-free regime, which is very important for us, for our citizens. Georgians have to have right to travel in Europe without any restrictions. And of course, Prime Minister, I want to repeat what I've told you during our tete-a-tete meeting, that we want to learn from you, from your experience, because you've already passed this, this path, and you as the member of the European Union and NATO can share with us your experience. So as a final remark, I want to thank you again, my dear colleague, for your outstanding hospitality, for your warm reception, and I'm happy to invite you. Please revisit us again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question to the Prime Minister of Georgia with regard to the EU integration of your country and the ambitions you have. Do you think that the current situation and development in the east of Ukraine and with the Russian Federation, does that situation make the European Union weaker or perhaps stronger, also including your ambitions for the future?
Thank you for the question. I want to tell you what my country thinks and what our people thinks about Georgia's European integration. We think that there is no alternative to this choice. The choice is made by the Georgian people, and my government is fully committed to make this happen. So therefore, I can only reaffirm our commitment to this path of European integration and Euro-Atlantic integration. And again, I think this is truly the sovereign right of a sovereign nation, and each and every country and each and every nation should have full right, sovereign right to designate its own future. And Georgia has already made this choice. We understand it's a long process, but we are committed to this path. And I think Europe will become stronger with Georgia, and of course Georgia will become stronger with Europe.
Georgian Public Broadcaster Ketevan Kartava. My question is also mainly about NATO. Mr. Prime Minister, in December, NATO Foreign Affairs Ministers will assess the reform progress of aspirant countries and Georgia amongst them. And then leaders will decide the future ways of cooperation. I'm interested what is the position of you, of Slovakia. Do you think that Georgia really has everything to prepare for future membership of NATO, or do you think that membership action plan is the valuable framework for pre-accession process? And about visa liberalization, you mentioned about it. Do you think that it is possible to reach the political consent among member states soon? Thank you very much.
I have to admit and remind perhaps very openly that in case of post-communistic countries and then those countries joining NATO, this could sometimes meet with a controversial response by the population. That is why it is very important to have good instruments available during the preparatory stage, during the aspiration stage, if you will, to be able to explain, to make awareness in the public openly about both benefits and obligations of NATO membership. For instance, one such commitment of NATO membership entails very few countries meet this commitment, and that is the defense expenditures percentage being of at least 2% GDP. On behalf of Slovakia, I can only openly say that we have just recently exceeded 1% of GDP defense expenditures. We are mainly interested in modernizing our military equipment. And people, just to put it blankly, people often respond, why do we need new tanks when we need more new hospitals? But we do realize the importance of security policy. So therefore, as long as Georgia has been committed and decided about embarking upon this avenue, Slovakia, and I declare this openly, is fully supportive of your aspirations and ambitions, and we are ready to raise our hands in favor. With regard to your second question on the visas, I think we shall be looking at this issue in more general terms, also in light of the recent migration crisis. Why preventing someone who is a bona fide traveler wishing to visit any of the European Union or Schengen country, having them to submit to very strenuous and lengthy Schengen visa permits? That reflected on the background of having recently seen hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants crossing into Europe with no identification whatsoever. Being able to differentiate between the two terms of bona fide and mala fide, from Latin, we know very well, able to determine who has the goodwill, for what purpose do people travel. Therefore, I am a strong supporter of visa-free arrangements and liberalization in this regard with countries who are showing their aspirations to integrate themselves. As many countries as possible, those who are interested in eventually joining the EU must be given opportunity to at least get a taste of EU. On the other hand, not everything is sexy, what EU has to offer. There have been mistakes. So it is not only the right of a candidate country who wishes to aspire for full membership to get to know the full picture, it is also the obligation, on the other hand, of EU member states to show openly everything.